Okay, let's get this conversation going again. Should a mouse be as light as possible, or should it have a bit of weight to help control? For the last few years, I've been saying I want lighter and lighter mice, and with the latest Fighter mouse, it seems I can go even lighter. Meanwhile, other people are still using mice around 70 grams, and they say it helps control. I use a 60-gram mouse, but that's because of the shape and features. Otherwise, I would rather go lighter. So weight is important, but I still think shape is king. But let's ignore shape, features and all that. Let's talk purely about weight for a moment. So if you could get your favorite mouse at any weight, what would it be? What's the perfect weight for you? Now, as always, I recommend that you find what works for you. But I'm here to give you my experience based on playing Quake for the last 25 years, which will hopefully add to yours, and you can make a better choice. Okay, have you figured out your ideal weight yet? Let's see if it changes by the end of the video. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I've been testing a glass mousepad from SKYPAD. Shout out to them for sending it out for me to test. And I reached out to SKYPAD because a friend of mine said they're awesome. This isn't just any friend. This is a guy I played Quake with 14 years ago, who still has exceptional aim. He also taught me a lot about playing Apex Legends. If you watch my videos and see Apex footage, you probably see Kodor a lot. He's one of the best players I know, across multiple games too, not just one. I don't know about you guys, but when someone can clearly aim extremely well, I tend to want to find out how and why. Are they naturally gifted? Probably. Did they work really hard or play a lot? Probably that too. And are they being helped by their mouse and pad combination? That's what we're talking about here. I want to give you a bit of backstory, because you're probably having the same thoughts as us. Kodor sometimes said he was whiffing with certain mice, and obviously there's advantages and disadvantages to each, with weight being a factor. My complaint was that hard pads are too slippery. There's not enough control. I overshoot my targets all the time. Code did agree, but he said that's why he gets different feet. So the control is now on the feet rather than the pad. So we're thinking, could that be the key? The reason to do this is because you want the benefits of the hard pad, which would be easy to clean, less chance of changing speed like fabric cam when worn in, although that depends on the type of hard pad too. And from my testing of the SKYPAD, the aim benefit was that I could change direction much easier. So in that regard, it makes it easier to aim. Makes sense then, right? Hard pad advantages with slower moving feet. You get some extra control with the advantages. I bought some Tiger Arc 1 feet, and let me show you the difference just through a sound test. I've put them on the same mouse. Black version has the Tiger Arc, white has the standard. Here's the difference just by sound. Yeah, the defaults are terrible on these glass pads, so Tiger Arc Originals are much better, and I played better with them too, but honestly, still not well. So let's get to the disadvantages of these hard pads, especially the glass pad. First, every bit of dust feels like a pebble under a skateboard. It's so jarring. I was constantly having to wipe the pad down, and even then, I'd still get issues. Next, it's loud and clanky, and cold, it's not comfortable. I mean, it's glass, right? So you're not going to get that nice comfortable feel of fabric. And I had to use it with a pad underneath it, or the foam it came with, just to dampen the sound and the feel. And yeah, even with these feet, I'm still overshooting my targets and struggling to aim. After weeks of testing, I decided to switch mouse to something heavier. I had the G502 on my desk, because I use the infinite scroll wheel during video editing, and I felt I could aim it better than the lighter mice. The weight was actually giving me the extra control that I needed. This is a mouse that weighs 115 grams. If you had asked me before this test which I would aim best with on a glass pad, I still would have thought it would be the Pulsar X2H, but nope. This pad has so little friction, I actually aimed better with a mouse that has a bad shape, size and weight for me. So there you have it, the G502 is the best mouse ever, on a glass pad. And we were wrong about the weight. I'm kidding, because after that, I switched back to my blue version of the Xtrfy GPC1 and my Xtrfy MZ1, and yeah, this is where the name of the pad came from. Zeiss damage, because the most standout trait was that I kept on getting high damage compared to other pads. But here's the thing, I saw some people having a go at the GPC1 for being a mud pad, as in there's too much control. But now I'm wondering, how much did their mice weigh? Were they using 80 gram mice? Maybe that's too heavy for this pad. Also, they have the black version, as the blue wasn't sold. The blue is just for my mouse cam. The black version actually has more control, and I do prefer the black version because of that. But let's say that the blue copy works best with 60 grams. Would the black copy then work best with 55 grams? I'm just making these numbers up, trying to make a point here. And then you add the feet speed in there too. What weights do we need for which feet and which pads? Because that's the question we're left with. What's the right balance? Like, go to extremes. Do you want a mouse pad that has super control to the point it's hard to move on it, with a mouse that weighs 10 grams, and feet that reduce friction? Or do you want a pad that has no control, so your mouse just flies off if you give it a nudge, but also have feet with a bit of friction? Okay, get what I'm saying? Now let's bring it back to more realistic ideas. My current setup would be strong control, 60 gram mouse, with standard glide feet. Kodor's setup would be speed pad, about 70 gram mouse, with extra control in the feet. I think we use similar sensitivity too, but of course that's going to add into the debate as well. Going to try keep it simple though, so let's just stick with those variables. For me, I'd like a lighter mouse, but again, I'm not going to switch because the MZ1 shape is the best. For me, let's hope we see a lighter version someday. Code is now testing a pad with a bit more control, so I think he's finding something similar, that we have to have a bit more control than these glass pads are offering. We'll have to see later. But yeah, I couldn't aim very well on the glass pad. But then if you look at my playstyle in the game that I play, it's very fast paced, and I'm flicking the mouse around a lot, with a pretty mid-range sensitivity of about maybe 35cm 360. And yes, I have lowered my sensitivity since switching to the lighter, smaller mice, but with this setup, I've never been so confident in my aim. So I'm feeling really good with this setup. I would like to try lighter, but I'm pretty happy right now. And as said in the Final Mouse video, I think we're reaching diminishing returns. Like, how much lighter do we really need to go? And speaking of Final Mouse, I spoke about physics in the Starlight video. I won't go too scientific here, but you'll find a lot of people talking about starting and stopping power on pads. How the friction handles. Like, how much force will it take to move a mouse that's heavy or has control feet on it, compared to a light mouse with speed feet. And remember, we have to lift the mouse and flick it too, to reposition it. Repositioning is important. That's harder to do with a heavier mouse. Just like I was saying, get a dumbbell and try to place it accurately, compared to say a pen. Obviously, the smaller, lighter object is easier to place accurately. Again, this is an extreme example, just to try to get the point across. So if you have a choice of having the control in the mouse weight or the pad friction, my argument would be that you want to choose a lighter mouse weight, because the way we use mice is picking them up and flicking them and moving them around, to reposition them. Therefore, you don't want any extra mass in that motion. The drawback is that the extra friction in the pad makes it harder to move, but it's also what gives you that extra ability to stop where you want to. So the next question is there a better balance? Can you get a pad that's medium speed, with a mouse that's medium weight, and feet with medium friction? Obviously saying medium isn't helpful, it's arbitrary. I'm just posing the question though, because I don't know the answer yet. Maybe I've already found the mediums. Maybe I need to test even more. But that's why I started this video saying we should talk about this again, because it would be good to get your experience as well, especially if you're playing games like Valorant or CSGO. My reviews are mostly based on how well I aim, but it's Quake aim, where you need to be able to move quickly. There's a lot of precision in there too, so you still get that slow pixel adjustment and flicking to multiple targets, but I think with recoil involved in all that, and the fact you can't use strafe keys to correct your aim properly, maybe it's different, not sure. Anyway, if we could find a way to actually properly measure the speed of mousepads, it would be much easier to get an answer to these bigger questions. But as always, with early thoughts on things, we just have to wing it, and try to figure it out based on comparisons. Maybe we all do the tilt testing. So if you put your mice at the top and slowly lift the mousepad, at what point does the mouse start to move? So assuming we always test the same mouse over and over on each pad, we could say the friction speed is an angle. I'll do the SKYPAD versus my pad with the G Pro wireless. So this is a slide point on the SKYPAD, and the GPZ1, obviously a fair bit higher, and then it's really slow to move down. Way more control. Okay, that's all I have for this topic for now. To conclude, ignoring the human factors for a moment and personal preference, while there are benefits to having really light mice, if you have a high-speed pad, you might find you want a heavier mouse for extra control. And as Code pointed out, having extra control in the feet can help too. Now it's up to you to leave your experience in the comments and go test it further yourself. Hopefully the more people talk about it, the more we can figure out. And I'll do an update video when there's enough data and experience available. Until then, hope this has helped. Thanks again to SKYPAD and Kodor for helping me with this testing. And this video isn't sponsored, but if you want to check out my book, it's set in World War IV and has an element of magic to it. And it's character driven. TheHeroesFall.com for the website, and of course my mouse and pad through Xtrify, the GPZ1 and the MZ1. Sub, like and share, and I'll catch you in the next.